Hello everyone, my name is Serafi and I'm happy to meet you all. And today we're going to be playing Dark Magician. Now Dark Magician is a deck that was very popular in recent years, however it got nerfed significantly, and that kind of fell out of favor. But all the nerfs got lifted recently, and with the recent domination of Live Twins and Altergeist, a lot of decks could benefit from the defensive tools of Dark Magician. The ability to avoid being affected by card effects, as well as the ability to negate spells and traps on a dime, does allow you to kind of put some of these trap decks back in their place. Now, there are many different ways to play Dark Magician. You can play the Magician's Magic version that allows you to normal summon Dark Magician without tributing. You can play different versions of the Magician's Navigation Dark Magician. The one that I like is the A Trick Up the Sleeve version. So, the skill that we have is called A Trick Up the Sleeve. Your starting hand will contain one level 7 or higher Dark Spellcaster monster randomly selected from your deck. This skill will not activate if your deck does not contain any level 7 Dark Spellcaster monsters. You cannot special summon effect monsters during your first turn. So, this will increase the consistency of our deck and our opening plays dramatically. However, it does mean that we can't play the Magician of Dark Illusion, because even though it can treat itself as Dark Magician on the field, it does not treat itself as Dark Magician in the hand, which means that it interrupts all of our plays. So we can't play that card. It's a really good card to summon off of Navigation, but having it in the deck does mess up our turn 1, so we just take it out. Not being able to summon any monsters on the first turn is very rough, and it actually creates a really interesting dynamic for this deck where the Dark Magician deck is very bad at going second, and that's weird to think about. A lot of decks in Duel Links are not very good at going first. They can't establish a strong board, they don't really have any negates or interaction, they're just inherently like a deck that's designed to OTK, like Heroes or Blackwings. But there aren't too many decks in the game that just fail at going second. Dark Magician, though, because their deck focuses entirely around setting up traps to summon during your opponent's turn, means that they're really good at going first, but when they go second, they have to deal with a board that's essentially being built twice with only one set of cards. It's difficult, but not impossible. Keep that in mind while you're playing this deck. For the main deck, we have Apprentice Illusion Magician. This is a level 6 Dark Spellcaster. You can special summon this card from your hand by discarding one card. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add one Dark Magician from your deck to your hand. During damage calculation, if your other Dark Spellcaster type monster battles an opponent's monster, you can send this card from your hand or your face-up field to the graveyard. That monster you control gains 2,000 attack and defense during that damage calculation only. None of these effects are once per turn. Not the summon, not the search, and not the attack boost. This card is fantastic. You should definitely play this card at 3. I don't have it at 3, but I recommend that if you have it at 3, you play it at 3. And 2 is probably enough. I have a lot of fun with this card. Not being able to summon it on turn 1 really hurts, but it still has a hand trap effect that's very useful to us, so it's still a good card to draw, and it's a card that we like to special summon off of Magician's Navigation. Next up, we have Magician's Rod. When this card is normal summon, you can add one spell or trap from your deck to your hand that specifically lists Dark Magician in its card text. During your opponent's turn, if you activate a spell or trap effect while this card is in your graveyard, you contribute one spellcaster monster to add this card to your hand. Each effect is a hard once per turn. Magician's Rod is our normal summon. We will normal summon Magician's Rod, draw Dark Magical Circle, activate Dark Magical Circle, look at the top 3 cards of our deck, and hopefully add Magician's Navigation or Eternal Soul to our hand. That's a good start going first. It is a card that we can summon on turn 1 because it's not a special summon, so we definitely want to get this card if possible, and running it 3 is ideal. Of course, we have to play Dark Magician. Dark Magical Circle, when this card is activated, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, then you can reveal one Dark Magician or one spell or trap card that specifically lists Dark Magician among them, add it to your hand, also place the remaining cards on top of your deck in any order. If Dark Magician is normal or special summoned to your field, you can target one card your opponent controls and banish it. Each effect is a hard once per turn. So Dark Magical Circle being a continuous spell is interesting. Obviously, MST negates. If your opponent's chains to the activation of this card, or they change the activation of the banish effect with a card like Cosmic Cyclone, the effect will be negated because the card is not on the field at time of resolution. That's annoying, but the fact that it's a continuous spell means that it's very interesting for certain decks, because a lot of decks these days tend to outsource their spell and trap removal to Nightmare Phoenix. They don't run cards like MST or Cosmic Cyclone as much as they used to because they know they can get rid of a spell or trap card on demand. But the problem is, when you need 2 monsters on the field to get your spell and trap removal, if you just banish one of them with Dark Magical Circle, they can have a hard time actually getting to the Nightmare Phoenix, which will allow us to continuously banish their cards. So, yeah, this card seems to be very good right now. Because we're so bad at going second, we are playing Dark Hole and Lightning Vortex to kind of take the board back so that we can kind of pretend that we were going first. Lightning Vortex is actually really interesting and has a lot of application for this deck because if you go first and it comes back to you on turn 3, you actually did probably summon monsters during your opponent's turn. So the Lightning Vortex allows you to avoid popping your own cards as opposed to Dark Hole where you would just destroy the entire field. So both these cards are good, and I like running both of them at 1. I don't know that you would run any more than that. We're running 3 Compulse to keep ourselves alive. Magician Navigation. Special summon 1 Dark Magician from your hand, then special summon 1 level 7 or lower Dark Spellcaster monster from your deck. If you control Dark Magician, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard, target one's face-up spell or trap your opponent controls, and its effects are negated until the end of the turn. Both of these effects are not once per turn, so you can negate as many times as you can banish, and you can also special summon as many times as you can. However, you do need to have 2 empty zones on the field in order to activate Magician's Navigation, because you're summoning from the hand and from the deck. And the summon from the deck is not optional. So if you don't have any spellcasters left in your deck, you cannot activate Magician's Navigation just to summon the Dark Magician from your hand. That's also something to keep in mind. Typically, you will use this to special summon Dark Magician from your hand and a Princess Illusion Magician from your deck to draw another Dark Magician so that you can then use your Eternal Soul later in the same turn. Speaking of Eternal Soul, every Dark Magician in your monster zone is unaffected by your opponent's card effects. That is amazing. That will allow you to dodge the effects of Evil Twin Lila, Mind Control, Dark Hole, lots of effects that are currently ongoing which allow the opponent to try and remove your board before they even attack. Eternal Soul just lets you ignore all of that. If this face-up card leaves the field, destroy all monsters you control. That doesn't apply if the card is shuffled into the deck, but it does apply if the card is returned to the hand, banished, or destroyed. That's really annoying. It can definitely cause lethal in some instances. That's the price that we pay for power, unfortunately. Once per turn, you can activate one of these effects. Special summon 1 Dark Magician from your hand or graveyard, or add 1 Dark Magic Attack or 1,000 Knives from your deck to your hand. Now, you can activate multiple Eternal Souls in one turn, but you just can't use the effect of Eternal Soul more than once per turn. So, for example, if you activate Eternal Soul and you choose not to use the effect and you just play the card, your opponent could then chain it with, MST or something like that and destroy the Eternal Soul, and then you can activate the second one and still get the special summon. But if you use the special summon the first time, you can still activate the second one to give your Dark Magician, untargetable if you need to. So keep that in mind when you're kind of dealing with the brick of 2 Eternal Souls at the same time. It's going to happen to you more often than you'd like. For the extra deck, not much to say here. I don't like any of these cards. Every time that I actually made any cards in the extra deck, I lost. So we got Draco Sack, which can summon tokens and pop cards. It's not that useful. Red Eyes Flared Metal Dragon can't be destroyed by card effects, so I try to use that to kind of avoid the drawback of Eternal Soul, but it hasn't won the game for me yet. Imduk, you can link Dark Magician away to play this card, and it can instantly destroy any monster that attacks as long as it points to it, which is kind of cute. It does enable your Eternal Soul if you don't have another Dark Magician in your hand. You just kind of have the Dark Magician that you had on the field last turn, and you link it off, then you special summon it from the graveyard. That's kind of a useful effect, so I would keep it in the extra deck, but it's not going to do that much for you. Brood Enforcer is a card that you can use to get the Magician's Navigation in the graveyard if you need it. Like if you're kind of already dueling and you're setting up trying to get lethal and you drew a Magician's Navigation and that's the only card in your hand, Brood Enforcer will allow you to discard it so that you can at least use the Negate effect during your opponent's next turn. It's an option. Then we're playing Ningirsu, which you need both these cards to make, and Ningirsu is an out to Chaos Max and an out to Leo Dancer. The problem is that Brood Enforcer requires effect monsters to make, so it's really not even that easy to make Ningirsu when you need it to. The last card in the extra deck is Ebon Illusion Magician, which is the card that you're kind of expected to play. You can use 2 Dark Magicians to special summon a Dark Magician from your deck, and then when you attack with Dark Magician, Ebon Illusion Magician gives you another banish. It sounds good in theory, but the problem with this card is that When you exceed summon, you are taking both your Dark Magicians off the field, which means that for the briefest of moments between when you make Ebon Illusion Magician and when you activate its effect, you don't have any Dark Magicians to actually use your Magician's Navigation Negate, so it's not even really worth making the Ebon Illusion Magician and getting the extra Dark Magician, because you're letting your opponent activate their spells and traps for that one moment, which will usually lose you the game. So, yeah, don't play any of these cards. The extra deck's not good. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at the replay. Alright, so we are going first, and we have Compulsory Evacuation Device, Magician's Navigation, Apprentice Illusion Magician, and Dark Magician in our hand. This means two things. We can't summon anything, because we can't summon our Apprentice Illusion Magician because of the skill, and we don't have our Rod to normal summon. We also don't have any way to get Dark Magical Circle in our hand, which means we don't have a quick effect banish. This is going to be a difficult turn. Let's see how we do. It's our opponent's turn. They activate Live Twin Home, special summon the Live Twin Key skill. Live Twin Key skill, special summon Live Twin Lila. Link into Evil Twin Key skill. We will activate Compulsory Evacuation Device in response to Evil Twin Key skill's effect. Target the Evil Twin Key skill and take it off the field. The opponent cannot continue, so they will go ahead and set 3. And that's huge. Our opponent was able to set 3 and also go into their boss monster chain. So this was a dangerous board that our opponent had. They had like basically the perfect Evil Twins hand. We were able to interrupt them and constantly keep them from building too much of a threat on the board, but we still have to deal with all their traps. We activate Magician's Navigation. We special summon Dark Magician from the hand. We special summon the Apprentice Illusion Magician from the deck. Apprentice Illusion Magician draws Dark Magician, and it's our turn. We draw another Magician's Navigation, and we're going to set it face down. Then we will attack into the Live Twin Lila. Our opponent is going to activate a Maze Attraction Horror House and set the monster face down. We will allow that to happen. We attack into Lila and destroy it. It's our opponent's turn. They activate Paleozoic Dynamiscus, discard a card to banish our Dark Magician. We will use the Magician's Navigation to negate this. And there you go. Our opponent had a fantastic opening hand with lots of disruption and a dangerous set of cards that they could have used to build a board. We stopped them from building a board, and we used our negate to prevent our opponent from getting additional resources. They ran out of cards, and we still had high power monsters on the field to deal with all their threats. This is the power of Dark Magician and the consistency of a strong draw engine and a skill that fixes your hand with a card that allows you to special summon from the deck. My name is Serafi, and I was thrilled to have all of you with me.